We imagine inventions as progress: fire for warmth, farming for food, writing for wisdom. But the truth is darker. From the very beginning, inventions weren't gifts. They were tools of control. Humanity's first technologies didn't free us. They bound us. This is the story of power, told through the inventions that shaped it. The control of fire began nearly 1 million years ago, long before cities or writing. Archaeological sites in Kenya and Israel show charred bones and hearths, where early humans learned not to create fire, but to keep it alive. And that gave power to the few. Fire keepers guarded flames day and night, because losing them could mean death. Entire clans depended on whoever controlled the embers. That's why myths across cultures, from Prometheus in Greece to the Sand People of Africa, speak of fire as something stolen, gifted, or guarded by gods. Fire wasn't liberation, it was dependence, humanity's first monopoly. But fire dies quickly, and when it does, power vanishes with it. Humanity needed something sharper, something permanent. The first stone tools date back 2.6 million years, but they became refined around 300,000 years ago with Homo sapiens and Neanderthals. Hand axes, scrapers, blades. They look crude today, but they were devastating. With them, humans cracked bones for marrow, butchered animals faster than predators, and, most importantly, fought rivals. This was humanity's first arms race. Archaeological evidence shows entire species of megafauna disappearing as humans armed with tools spread across continents. Rival tribes without such weapons vanished from history. Progress didn't begin with peace. It began with sharper edges and blood. But blades can only control bodies. To rule minds, humans needed something more powerful than weapons. They needed stories. By 100,000 years ago, humans began creating beads and carvings. By 40,000 years ago, caves in Europe blazed with painted animals and strange symbols. We often call this the dawn of art, but it was also the dawn of propaganda. These symbols weren't just decorations, they were claims, marks of territory, proof of myths, declarations of belonging. Shared belief bound strangers into tribes. Shamans and leaders used ritual and symbol to justify obedience. Art didn't begin as beauty. It began as control through imagination. And this power of symbols never left us. From flags to holy icons, the roots lie deep in those ancient caves. But symbols and myths weren't enough to hold people in one place. To bind thousands together, leaders needed something stronger: the land itself. Around 10,000 BCE, in the Fertile Crescent, humans planted the first crops: wheat, barley, lentils. Farming spread to China, Mesoamerica, and Africa. It looked like progress, but farming was a trap. Skeletons from early farmers show shorter lifespans, worse nutrition, and more disease compared to hunter-gatherers. Farming chained people to the land, but it also created something new: surpluses. And surpluses created rulers. Stored grain meant taxes. Taxes meant armies. Villages became cities like Çatalhöyük and Uruk. Civilization wasn't born from farming. Servitude was. And once grain could be stored, it needed jars. And once jars existed, one invention would change everything: a circle of clay. The wheel was invented in Mesopotamia around 3500 BCE, but it wasn't built for wagons. The first wheel spun clay. Potter's wheels made jars to hold grain, beer, and seeds, the wealth of ancient states. Pottery meant surpluses could last, be hoarded, and traded. The wheel turned food into wealth. Only centuries later did wheels carry carts and chariots into war. By then, the wheel had already reshaped economies. It wasn't invented for freedom of travel. It was invented for control of resources. But jars can break. Surpluses can vanish. Power needed something stronger: records carved in stone. Writing first appeared in Mesopotamia around 3100 BCE, not as stories but as cuneiform records. The earliest tablets from Uruk don't tell myths. They list grain deliveries. They count sheep. They track taxes. Writing wasn't invented for poetry, it was invented for bureaucracy. And literacy was restricted. Only scribes trained for years could read or write. A farmer couldn't challenge the debt carved into clay. His obligations were permanent, and his ignorance sealed his fate. The first written word wasn't freedom, it was an obligation, a contract of control. Why? With fire, farming, wheels, and writing did humanity crawl so slowly? Because inventions weren't shared. They were hoarded. Fire kept by guardians, tools by warriors, symbols by shamans, grain by rulers, writing by scribes. Knowledge was fragile, tied to the few, dying with them when they fell. That's why it took humanity hundreds of thousands of years to invent writing, but only a few centuries to leap from printing presses to rockets. The moment knowledge escaped control, it multiplied, and invention sprinted forward. But never forget, every invention carries two faces, and from the very beginning, its darker face was power. If this changed the way you see humanity's first inventions, subscribe. Next, we'll uncover how the compass was once forbidden knowledge, guarded, hidden, and used to build empires on lies.